From the latest on Caribbean cruises to kosher safaris, pilgrimages to Jewish Eastern Europe, and award-winning wines and international cuisine in sun-drenched Tel Aviv. Sit back and enjoy the trip with the travel edition of the Jerusalem Post podcast.
Hello, old mucker.
I beg your pardon?
I said hello, David.
Thank you very much. Which language were you just speaking?
Sorry, I was speaking Northern English. I forgot. I was just finishing off something else.
Hang on a minute. That's not Northern English.
In it?
What, my old mucker? Isn't that very London?
I don't know. I never said my old mucker to anybody.
I've got a feeling it's from the south.
Not in my public school, we didn't.
We're getting parochial as we often do.
Should we talk about travel? Because I think that's why we're here.
Probably. We're hitting virgin territory, and that wasn't an ad for an airline. We are going, in today's pod, to two completely new locations.
We're starting to run out, I think.
No. Before we say the two places we're visiting, and if anybody's actually read the blurb that goes with the pod, they'll already know where we're going, but if you haven't, it will keep it as a surprise. But how many countries are there in the world? That's a seriously controversial question.
Somewhere between 190 and 210, depending on funny territories and sub-flags and
legal battles
and occupations
and all sorts of. It's funny, we were actually just talking about which are very popular tourist destinations and which aren't, and I threw out the Faroe Islands thinking that maybe you could think of the Faroe Islands as being an independent country, and then smart Mark said, well, no, it's not an independent country.
I suppose what defines a country, and again, this is getting slightly political, is it recognised by the United Nations as a country? I'm not sure I want to go there.
Yeah, so let's discuss where we're actually heading on today's podcast before we dig ourselves into a giant hole.
Do you know, I've had a thought, David.
Oh, good Lord.
It's very lonely.
Yes. Oh.
Every time we sit here and we talk, we go, where should we go today? Anybody who's clicked on to listen knows where we're going.
Yes, that's what I just said.
I know, but I've just thought we've just wasted 3.5 years doing that.
Well, yeah, but anyway, it's not really wasting 3.5 years.
Anyway, for those of you that clicked on without reading the blurb as to where we're going today, because you like a nice surprise, we're going to two countries we've never been to, we've never spoken about, and we look forward to going to one day.
So first off, we're going to be headed to Moldova, or Moldova. Did you know what? How do you pronounce it?
We should ask somebody else.
Okay, well, we'll get on to pronunciations in Moldova in a minute or two with a serious representative of that country here in Israel.
Oh, is that our second representative less serious?
One's official, and one is a very good friend of ours who's going to be talking about
Argentina, said with a very British accent.
So before we head off from Israel in the direction, well, I think we'll do Europe first and then South America second. Why don't we do a couple of quiz questions about those locations?
I'll do the first one. The Moldovan flag is similar to that of Romania, apart from the crest in the middle. The crest contains an animal called an auroch. What is an auroch?
And question number 2. The largest mountain in both the southern and western hemispheres is in Argentina. But what is its name? The answers at the end of the pod.
To talk the latest news in Israel, the Jewish world, and everything in between.
This is the J-Post Podcast. I'm Tamar Uriel-Beery, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post.
And I'm Tzvika Klein, Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post.
And I'm Sarah Ben-Nun, Night Editor at the Jerusalem Post. Join us as we bring some of the most impactful voices to bring you into what it means to be Jewish, to be Israeli today.
Every week, we bring you with us into the newsroom in every sense.
Stop being so dramatic. This is just our coffee break.
You can find us every Thursday on jpost.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there.
Yalla, bye.
David?
Mark?
I was thinking the other day,
Congratulations. I think that actually might be twice in this edition. One time you said, I've got a thought, and now you said, I've been thinking.
Do you know why? Because you haven't given me a glass of wine, so my head's still turning over properly.
Do you know what? That's a very good point. So should we stop recording and go and have a quick or should we wait till after we've recorded this bit?
Let's record this bit.
Okay.
So if I'm a bit slurry when we get to Argentina, you know what's happening. I was thinking back to all the trips that we almost went on that we haven't done. Because we've had quite a few cancelled along the way.
We've had COVID, we've had war.
We've had Mark in hospital.
And also events in other parts of the world that have affected travel. Not that it affected us directly, but we just had the floods in Dubai. We've had volcanoes in Iceland. There are so many reasons why trips get cancelled these days, as I'm sure you, our listener, are well aware if you're a traveller.
And that's why we take out insurance.
Good point.
Very good point.
I just took out 2 lots of insurance on my last trip, which was an utter waste of money, and that's because I'm an idiot and don't read emails.
But I think there's only one trip we've tried to plan that was cancelled twice.
And this is leading into our next guest, I guess.
Yes, in 2020, David and I had a trip planned. Even before we started podcasting, we were going to go from Krakow in Poland all the way through Ukraine, through Lviv, through Odessa, and then come back round into Moldova.
And then COVID happened. We tried it a second time, and, well, there was a Ukrainian war. And Moldova is right next to Ukraine, as we'll probably be finding out very soon from our guest.
At some point, we will go there. But in the meantime, we need to talk to somebody, because if we keep waiting to plan this trip, we'll never find out about Moldova.
Patiently waiting for us on the line for the last few minutes has been Moldova's ambassador to Israel, Alexander Reutemann.
If we go back into the history, it's part of the Romanian space. In the Middle Ages, when first Romanian countries developed and appeared on the map, Moldova was one of them. We went through history as every country with some challenges. In the times of the Ottoman Empire, we were part of the, let's say, this system built by the Turkish Empire for some 300 years. In the beginning of the 19th century, Bessarabia became part of the Russian Empire. So from 1812, Bessarabia and its population became a region of the Russian Empire and became a region part of the Jewish settlement line, which is very important also. It was until 1918 when the Russian Empire ceased to exist and the Soviet Union appeared. But since 1918 until 1940, we were part of the Great Romania. After a tumultuous time in history, in 1945, after the World War finished, we became part of the Soviet Union until 1991, when we became an independent state, and we are an independent state until today. So this is briefly the history of our country. We were always a bridge between East and West, and you can tell it by our people, because they speak various languages. They speak also Russian, they speak also Romanian, Ukrainian. We have many nationalities, ethnicities living in peace in Moldova from long times. So this would be briefly incursion in our history.
The capital historically was called Kishinev, and a lot of people will be familiar with Kishinev. See, even I've got it wrong. How do you pronounce the capital today?
It's Chisinau. So Kishinev would be the Russian reading of the name. If you go to the actual documents that for the first time state the name of the city, it's in the form Chisinau.
Very often when we have guests on who are not Jewish, who are representing their country, who are representing tourism and so on, when we ask them to talk a little bit about the Jewish history, the Jewish story of their country, they only know brushstrokes. They know there's a synagogue in the main town and so on. So now we get to ask you the Jewish history question, but in your particular case, I suspect we might get a rather lengthy answer, which we might have to edit afterwards. Tell us why you've got a passion for Jewish history as an author.
Thank you so much. I will try to do my best to be as short as possible, but to give as much information I have on that. Recently, I've sent to the publishing house my first, I hope not last, a new book about the Jewish history in Bessarabia in the 19th century. It's in Romanian language. It's called Bessarabian Jews, Who Are They? A question mark in the title. And it tells the story of the Jewish population, how they settled in Bessarabia. It was in the Middle Ages. Historic processes, natural causes, but also repressions, also commercial interests. And they came slightly to the Romanian space, the Romanian principalities, Moldovan principality. What's interesting is that why they came to this region, because they started to be invited by the rulers. They were giving special economic incentives to participate in the state's lives. The moment when a special legislation for the Jews started to be created in Moldova. Why is this important? Because in the 19th century, when Bessarabia became part of the Russian Empire, the Jews from Bessarabia had a different fate than other Jews from other gubernias of the Russian Empire, because the legislation was adopted to the facilities that they had previously with the rulers of Moldova. In the beginning of 19th century, there were 20,000. At the end of 19th century, it was 250,000. So big increase of the population. Also, Bessarabia increased its population by several times, and they were like 11% of the population. The community already is not so big, but you have a Jewish community, a vibrant Jewish community also today. The state has a very good relationship with the community, and it's very important. You know that we see worldwide a rise of anti-Semitism. It's a process that we cannot neglect. I would like to say that in Moldova we don't see something like that. We see some provocations. It happens everywhere. But on the state level and on national level, personal level, there is no animosity towards Jews, and this is very important.
Let's change gear a little bit. Somebody arrives in the country, Jewish, not Jewish, doesn't matter. What are they going to do? What are they going to experience?
First of all, Chisinau is very interesting to see. It combines also Soviet time architecture, but architecture from 19th century, architecture from the interwar period, which is also very interesting. So you have sites to visit, first of all, in Chisinau. So you can dedicate one single day to the streets of Chisinau, parks of Chisinau. In the evening, everything is very nicely lighted. So our national producer of sweets, which is called Bucuria, and it's translated like in Hebrew it would be Simcha, and in English it would be happiness. They produce even sweets which are called Evening Chisinau. For sure you will find very good and tasty food. You should taste Moldovan wines, and you should go to the wineries. We have two biggest wineries near Chisinau. It's not far from Chisinau. One is Cricova, which is in Guinness Book by the length of the cellars. It's like 250 kilometers, I believe. You go there by car. You see their streets named by the names of wines. Street of Aligoté, Street of Chardonnay. It's a very beautiful place. I recommend it wholeheartedly. And also we have another winery which is called Milești Mici. The second one, it's in the Guinness Book by the number of bottles that they produce and have in their cellars.
You mentioned the wine, and the best way to fight off a hangover possibly is to have some good food with it. What are the cuisines of Moldova? What are the distinct foods of Moldova we could taste with our wine?
I see that you have an extensive experience visiting countries with good wines, because we have a tradition. For example, after the wedding, when people party all the night, there is a tradition to go for special Moldovan soup, which is called zeama. You have it also in Romania. Many kinds of food are similar with Romania. We have something from Ukraine. We have something from the Russian cuisine. It's a regional thing. The tradition is to not have a hangover. You go to this zama tradition. It's like 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and then you are settled, The most well-known, it's mamaliga, which is Moldovan, Romanian type of polenta, Italian polenta. You have sarmale, which is maybe you've heard of the tolma. It's similar. Armenians, Azerbaijan, Romania also have it. Also, we have placintie, which is pastry filled with, it can be potatoes, it can be different ingredients. and many more. Else you should discover yourselves, because it's plenty of food and it's very tasty. But you should also know the measure, because everything what it's tasty and good, you should keep up with the quantities.
Mark and I are already packing our bags just based on the alcohol and the food. But when is the best time of year to visit?
Today, tomorrow, now. But speaking seriously, September, October, end of August, the autumn is very beautiful. It's very colorful. You can see unique images of falling leaves, like in the well-known song. May, June, when it's not very hot, it's perfect time to see when everything is green, the nature has its rebirth. So I would advise these two periods of time. Winter holidays, also it's a very good experience. We have this kind of winter bazaars. In October we have wine festival. I think first Sunday of October. It's a wine festival in the center of the country, in the center of the Chisinau. You have all wine producers from Moldova. You can taste, you can buy, you can party, you can dance. It's a festival.
October. Mark, it's October, isn't it? That's the month.
Well, we've been trying to get to Moldova since 2020.
Yeah, we have. That's true.
You must. And second week after that, on 14th of October, there is National Day of Chisinau. All the center, it's a big festival.
It all sounds really exciting. How do our listeners find out more about Moldova? Where do they get the details?
We have a site, an official website, which is called Moldova Travel. You just put it in Google and you have there amazing photos, amazing videos, amazing destinations, all the wineries.
Ambassador Reutman, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Moldova Fact File. The main airport in Moldova is Chisinau International. From Tel Aviv to Moldova, there are direct flights operated by Israel, Fly One and High Sky. For international connections, there are direct flights from Frankfurt with Lufthansa. Travel from the airport to Chisinau city centre takes around 25 minutes by car. There are shuttle buses from the airport to downtown Chisinau, taking about 40 minutes, costing about a shekel or 30 cents. Taxis are available for around $10. Travel to Tiraspol in Transnistria takes around 80 minutes. Chisinau has a few global hotel chains like Radisson, Courtyard by Marriott and M Gallery. The Bristol Central and Nobel Luxury are within walking distance of Chabad Synagogue. The pick of Tiraspol hotels are the City Club, Park and Russia hotels. $1 will buy you 17.7 Moldovan leu as of May 2024. Moldova is close to the Black Sea, giving it a mild and sunny climate. Summers can be warm and long, with temperatures averaging about 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and the winters are relatively dry, with temperatures averaging -4 degrees Celsius, 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Moldovan cuisine is full of meats, potatoes, cabbage and a variety of cereal grains, and resembles neighbouring Romanian cuisine. Speciality dishes include mamaliga, a polenta-based porridge, samale, cabbage or vine leaves filled with meat and rice, koltunasi, which is similar to Polish pierogi, and placinta, which are stuffed pies. Chabad in Chisinau can provide 3 meals a day and Shabbat meals. Details at kosher.md. I'm surrounded by octopuses, mushrooms, stingrays, jellyfish, and I'm about to hit my balls into a snail.
Just the experience of watching 2 robot arms making your cocktail for you.
I've got this strapping thing on and a very small piece of metal that is going to hold my body on a rope.
And we were fighting as snow shifters
against yetis. So we're both in very nice floral dresses.
You're listening to the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition with Mark Gordon and David Harris. And now it's time for the latest news from the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition. Just as flights to Israel were reaching an upward trajectory, the missile attack from Iran a few weeks ago put the brakes on. Then EasyJet cancelled all flights until October, United Airlines cancelled for a minimum of 2 months, and Air India for a month.
Dubai gave the green light to a $35 billion investment in what is expected to be the world's busiest airport. Al Maktoum International, the Emirates' second airport, will be 5 times bigger than the current version, with 5 runways and over 400 gates. Construction should be completed by 2030.
Passenger violence on Israeli flights has increased significantly since October 7th, with the latest incident on an El Al flight to Georgia. A passenger claiming to have PTSD after returning from fighting in Gaza allegedly attacked a member of the cabin crew. The flight returned to Ben Gurion 20 minutes after takeoff, and the passenger was arrested.
Viva Las Vegas could soon be Kosher Las Vegas. Clark County's Zoning Commission received an application for the originally named King David Hotel. Designed with 486 rooms and located less than a mile from the famed Las Vegas Strip, it will include kosher restaurants, a synagogue, and an event space for weddings, bat and bar mitzvahs.
Skytrax released the list of the cleanest airports in the world. Sadly, Ben Gurion didn't make the top 10, but 9 out of those top 10 are in Asia. The top 3 were Haneda Airport in Tokyo, Incheon in Seoul, and Changi in Singapore.
This is the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod, or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
So we went in today. Leave the chocolates alone, Mark.
Sorry.
Stop it.
I didn't realise we were recording, but the chocolates are so nice.
They are filled with alcohol. But as Mark intimated, or actually said a little bit earlier, we're going to have a little drinky before we went to Argentina. So David, in his studio, has a little wine fridge thingy going on. Because Israel is quite hot, the advice, particularly in the summer, is to chill red wines, even though that's not standard procedure in more temperate climes. We thought, well, we're doing Argentina. We'd already missed Moldova, but we're very much looking forward to tasting some Moldovan wine soon. But we thought, what about a nice Argentinian Malbec? And then Mark went all snobby on me and said, we can't have it if it's chilled.
Not snobby. I learnt a lot on our trip round the Judean Hill vineyards, and you can listen to that podcast. And I found out a bit more about wine and how to appreciate it, and don't just neck it back, apparently.
Plonk is plonk, or not. We've opened a fine rosé from the Pays d'Oc region of southeastern France. While we're sipping, we can talk about Argentina.
We are joined by Iris Hammy, who is the president of the Gill Travel Group, an American travel agency. So let's find out more about Iris and Argentina.
Gill Travel is a family-owned business. My husband, Igal, started it 50 years ago. It's a long time ago. To service and to market travel mainly to Israel, it was started. And then in the 1990s, we began to curate wonderful experiences all over the Jewish world. And we work mainly with prestigious organizations as well as high-end individuals and families who would like to travel.
When we have a guest on the show, we ask them to talk about a specific destination. We gave you free range. You could choose anywhere in the world. Which one have you chosen and why?
I thought about it a lot, and I decided to choose Argentina for various reasons. I think Argentina is an amazing country filled with wonderful people, amazing food, amazing wine, beautiful scenery and culture, as well as it's the largest Jewish community in South America, 300,000 strong.
As listeners will discover over the next 10 minutes or so, my inability to speak Spanish is very clear, and we're going to start with me making a mess of the pronunciation of the capital. So Buenos Aires is known for football, music and dance. But what landmarks are there? What attractions are there in the city?
You're very right that Buenos Aires is an amazing myriad of tastes and sights and smells for the local people as well as tourists. Aside from the wonderful music and tango, there are wonderful old neighborhoods like La Boca, which is a vibrant neighborhood with colorful houses, looks a little bit like the Caribbean, charming shops. That's a must for every traveler. There are very interesting museums, including modern Latin American art museum. There is, of course, the famous cemetery where Evita Peron is buried. Wonderful parks that you can see. Looks a little bit, they call it the Madrid and Paris of South America. Beautiful architecture, amazing synagogues. It has everything.
This is our first talk about Argentina. It's kind of a taster. I don't really want to brush over Buenos Aires so quickly, but outside of Buenos Aires, where would you recommend visiting?
Outside of Buenos Aires, you go into an oasis, starting with Iguazu Falls in the north, which is a wonderful site, very similar to Niagara Falls. It has two beautiful sites to it, one from the Brazilian side and one from the Argentinian side. I, of course, think that the Argentinian side is more beautiful and strong. If you want to go down south, it's a 3-hour flight. You go to Patagonia. That's the beginning of Patagonia, Bariloche. Bariloche is a Swiss cottage-like city inside mountains and ability to do fishing and beautiful landscapes where you can hike or bike or play golf. There are very beautiful hotels right on with views to the lake. One of them being the Zhao Zhao, where there's even a golf course. If you go down south even more, you can get to see glaciers. You can get to see penguins. It really is an amazing, amazing trip. If you go up north, you can go to a wonderful wine countryside, Mendoza, where there's amazing Malbec wine. Again, wonderful lodges and hotels, one being the Cavas Wine Lodge, that is one of my favorite. Could also go up even more north where it becomes more a combination of white and Indian flavors like Jujuy and Salta. So there is something for everyone.
With this being the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition, we're always interested to find out about Jewish history and what there is for Jewish travelers. Given that, as you said, there are 300,000 Jews there must be plenty to see.
Yes, there is. There are very, very interesting synagogues, not only Orthodox synagogues, but Reform and Conservative. So there's a place for everyone. What is really interesting is the cultural organizations and social clubs, which is what I want to talk about. Argentina has similar to our JCCs or golf clubs, and that's really the hub of the community there. Families from infants to grandparents and great-grandparents go there on weekends. They eat there, they play sports, they play bridge, they discuss politics, they have dances. So I would really say that that really is the center of Jewish social life in Argentina. And I think that's also one of the reasons where the Jewish community very much respects and spends time with one another.
Just to timestamp this conversation for listeners who will maybe listening in some years to come, we're about 7 months into the war with Hamas back at home. And the reason I mention that is it's the lead into this question. Right now, for Jewish people, for Israelis and people in general, how safe is it to travel to Argentina?
Well, we feel that Argentina actually, given the situation in our world, is actually a very safe country. Of course, you always have to be aware of your surroundings, but as a country, it's quite safe. The president of Argentina today, Javier Milei, publicly supports the state of Israel. Actually, in December of 23, we had a Maccabea Games in Argentina called the Pan American Games, where there were close to 6,000 Jewish athletes from all over the world coming to play sports. It was a wonderful Jewish event. I really feel that the country is quite safe.
If you had to pick one favorite thing to do in Argentina, what would it be?
I love the outdoors and wine. So I would either pick going to Bariloche and spending time there, hiking, biking. By the way, they have amazing chocolate, like the Swiss, a very interesting history for Jews in particular. There were quite a few Nazis who made their way to Bariloche right after the war. So it's quite an interesting place to visit and explore the history of Argentina at that time. I also love Mendoza. I love Malbec wine. You can spend time there hiking and doing every possible sport you would like and enjoying the wonderful steaks, Argentine steaks we didn't talk about, and great wine.
Well, you've sold it to us, and obviously you want to sell it to our listeners as well. So how do people find out more about visiting Argentina with your company, with Guild Travel?
Our website, guildtravel.com, has Jewish heritage travel experience all over the world. So all you have to do is choose Argentina, and you will there see experiences for a family, for a small group, for individuals, both in Buenos Aires and outside of Buenos Aires, like what I talked about.
Fabulous. Iris Hami, President of Guild Travel Group, thank you very much for being on.
Thank you for hosting me. I appreciate it.
Argentina Fact File. The largest international airport in Buenos Aires is Ministro Pistarini International Airport. Buenos Aires has a second large airport, Jorge Newbery, for domestic and South American flights. Cordoba also has an international airport. There are no direct flights from Israel, but there are good connections via Madrid with Air Europa and Iberia, London with British Airways, Paris with Air France, Dubai with Emirates, and from Frankfurt with Lufthansa. For North American connections, try Aerolíneas Argentinas and American from New York and Miami, Delta from Atlanta, Air Canada from Toronto, and United from Houston. Taxis and rental cars can be picked up from airports. From Pistarini International, buses and a shuttle also take you to your hotel. In Buenos Aires, the subte or subway is quick, affordable and easy to navigate. Bus lines are also efficient and easy to navigate via apps. Top hotels in Buenos Aires include the Hyatt Palacio Duhau, Four Seasons, Alvia Palace and Sheraton. In Cordoba, there's the Hospes Palacio de Baillo and AC Marriott Hotel. In Iguazu, Booking.com recommends the Grand Melia and Grand Resort Spa and Casino. The Alvia Icon Hotel has kosher services and 2 kosher restaurants, Milk & Co. and Glitter. $1 will buy you 881 Argentine peso. Argentina has 4 main climate types: warm, moderate, arid and cold, determined by the latitude, altitude and relief. The arid and cold climates predominate in the west and south, while the warm and moderate climates predominate in the centre and north. Argentina is famed for its empanadas, filled pasties and beef dishes such as asado, accompanied by a fine green salsa known as chimichurri. To finish off, some dulce de leche and crumbly alfajores cookies. Buenos Aires has a large number of kosher restaurants, including Al Galope, Yafo, and even the only kosher McDonald's outside of Israel. I'm just wondering, Mark, if we should actually change the name of this podcast to somewhere around the 2 middle-aged drunks, or just calling it the Wine Podcast or the Alcohol Appreciation Society or something.
No, we have to stay on brand, David. It's the Jerusalem Post, 2 old drunks.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the pod. We want to say a quick thank you to Ambassador Reutmann and to Iris, who brought to life Moldova and Argentina.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If you want to get all of our podcasts in the future, click on the subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, or any other podcast provider.
Our social media is to be found at MarkDavidPod, and you can mail us, markdavidpod@gmail.com.
Go on, mail us. Prove that you're listening.
Time for the quiz questions, Mark.
Ooh. Question number 1. The Moldovan flag is similar to that of Romania, apart from the crest in the middle. The crest contains an animal called an auroch. What is an auroch?
Is it like a dyslexic dolphin?
I'm trying to get the joke there.
Those of you out there who figure it out, you can email us and explain it to Mark.
Explain it to me now off mic.
Do you know what an orca is?
It's a whale. It's not
Yes,
a
I
dolphin.
know, but if I said whale, it's too obvious.
I like obvious.
So what is the real answer for an auroch, which is written auroch?
No, it's written auroch. Auroch.
Oh, you just misspelt it when we typed it.
You typed it. That's your type.
You said to me, it's true, he dictated, and he said, what is an auroch? So I wrote O-R-A-C,
Yeah. but
which is a dyslexic whale dolphin.
Anyway, enough of the terrible joke.
I'm filing for divorce.
The question was, what is an auroch? Auroch.
Make your mind up.
The question was, what is an auroch? An auroch is an extinct breed of cattle.
Really interesting. I was just thinking as you were saying it, it sounded like you were going Irish and saying auroch.
Mr. Auroch.
And question number 2. Now, I did something very strange. Normally we know each other's answers, and I thought today we'll try to actually ask each other so that we can do a legitimate guess at the end of the pod. So I was busy typing mine in, and I typed the answer in a place where Mark couldn't see it, but I actually said it out loud as I was typing it. So we'll see if Mark remembers the answer.
It's like when you sleep, David. You talk a lot in your sleep.
The largest mountain in both the southern and western hemispheres is in Argentina. But what is its name?
Well, I never heard you saying Aconcagua out loud. But is it Aconcagua?
It is. Hopefully you got both of those answers right. By the way, if you do enjoy those quiz questions, in probably around 60 of our 80 podcasts, you will find similar quiz questions at the start and the end, so you don't even need to listen to the middle.
But you can do if you want, because the answers are... Oh, no, I'll get you now. You can fast forward,
Okay.
Which is probably what most people will be doing now.
Time to stop. We do hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have, and we want to say a particular thank you to alcohol for getting us to the end of this podcast. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you in a couple of weeks' time.